Hello, this is Brian Funk, and thank you for listening to the Music Production Podcast. I'm very excited to announce that my new book, The 5-Minute Music Producer, is now available in paperback form, a real book that you can hold and touch and turn to any page you like in a second. And it's a pretty big book, 629 pages of activities, exercises, and wisdom I've learned over the years. It's available on Amazon.com. 5-Minute Music Producer is 365 music-making activities that will help with your songwriting and music production. It'll help you fight writer's block, make more music, write better lyrics, develop solid workflows, learn techniques for generating ideas, and finish more music. It's like having your very own music production personal trainer giving you ideas and challenges each day. And the best part is the challenges are quick and easy, and they only take a few minutes. So even if you don't have a lot of time, you can spend 5 minutes and advance your music production skills. There's no better time to improve your music than now. Imagine where you'll be after a year of these activities. The 5-Minute Music Producer has hit the #1 new release in the music songwriting and music recording and sound categories on Amazon. So check out the 5-Minute Music Producer, 365 music-making activities. It's available on Amazon.com, or you can go to brianfunk.com/book. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Music Production Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Funk. And on today's show, I have JP Rende and Raio Rende of Earworm Music. And they do a lot of cool stuff. Congratulations, first of all. They just won an Emmy for the song Friends with a Penguin that they wrote for Billy Porter. What a catchy song and fun. Great job, guys. Congrats.
Thank you.
They write for Sesame Street, Gabby's Dollhouse, Princess Power, Baby Shark's Big Show, Barbie's Dreamhouse Adventure. There's a long list of stuff they do. They do a lot of work for kids in animated TV and film commercials. I love the Charmin Shiny Heiny song they have. that was great. A lot of fun. Kat, you've sang with Alicia Keys, Mary J. Blige, Usher, Ray Charles. A lot of really impressive stuff. You guys are doing great work, and it sounds like you're having fun. You've married your music and your lives together, so It's a really unique combination, and I'm very excited to talk to you guys. I had a lot of fun digging into your catalog a bit, getting ready for the show.
Oh, sweet. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks.
So, first of all, congratulations on the Emmy. That's great.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was really fun. That was a really fun night.
It was a wild time.
Yeah, we didn't think we were going to win, honestly, because we've been nominated before, and it's really a crapshoot. You never know. You really never know how the cards fall. And I remember the first time that we went out to the ceremony. Maybe it's just a little bit of arrogance. We were like, of course we got this. We got this. It's a great song. We lost. And it felt so bad. It felt bad. I'm going to give it real. A lot of people are like, it doesn't matter. It felt bad to lose. So when we got nominated again, we went out with like, hey, it's probably not going to happen. Let's just have a great time. And we were up against a Ben Folds song. And it was a really good song. Like Ben Folds, I don't know you, but I want to know you. And you're fantastic. It was called...
The Little Things?
The Little Things, Charlie Brown. It was for Charlie Brown special. So I was like, he's going to win. It's all good. And then when JoJo Siwa called Friends with a Penguin, like, we were shocked. Like full on that meme with Taylor Swift, like this. We were totally shocked. And it was a really fun thing. And, the song... as silly as it can come across on the surface, has a much deeper meaning about, just say hi to somebody that's different than you, and you could become friends, and don't be afraid of anything that's dissimilar, because that's how we learn from each other.
Right. Is that the Emmy behind you, Kat? I see.
I know. I was trying to cover it up because I don't want to look like a douche. I'm sorry. I don't want to look like a jerk, but...
No, that's great.
Yeah.
You should have that proudly displayed, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, sorry. I have one too. It's not in my studio. I gave it to my parents. And partially I was like, I'm just going to look at that and become complacent. So I always got to stay hungry. So
Yeah, right. That's a big part of it. You mentioned it being silly. And this is like something I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about because there's, I think, a different mindset that goes into writing songs like this compared to like being an artist. You know what I mean? Like a serious artist. So just to give you a sense of where I'm coming from with this, I have my serious artist side, where I write my songs and stuff. But a few years back with a friend of mine, we wrote songs kind of directed for kids with special needs, specifically autism, for social behavior stuff. And it's called social story songs. And that's something that's often used to help teach proper behavior in places, restaurants, how to interact with people. We had a song similar to the concept of yours, the perfect greeting for who I'm meeting. So it just teaches you how to say hello and stuff. But what I found with that was it was very liberating to write in that way, where you didn't have to be so artistic about everything and so serious about it. I had a lot of fun with that. And I wanted to ask you guys a little bit about just that mindset and that way of writing and getting free to be silly with it a little bit and have fun with the songwriting process.
That's the most fun that I think that you can possibly have, especially when it comes to like I'm neurodivergent and like writing from that perspective and writing. There's like that is a really great place to come from, but also like a really great way to like get all of that out. Like you said, like being an artist. I started off as an artist, and it's just not as much fun. It's so much fun writing for, like, to be silly. And, like, there are some artists that do it now. And there's, especially for, like, they're for kids' movies. But, like, the recent Barbie movie had a song by Lizzo that I thought was so funny. Like, it started off as, I did not write it, but it was a song that was, the first time it came around, it was very serious and happy, and the second time around, it started getting panicked because Barbie was changing as a person. And
spoiler alert.
Sorry, but it's so fun to write like that because, like, as writing for kids and knowing their parents are also watching it, it's so fun to like add adult content in it. Like we wrote a song for Baby Shark's big show called Call Me Billiam, and where Billiam, Baby Shark's best friend, was trying to be an adult, and he said, I'm not William now, from now on call me Billiam. And then the song is like this very serious like rap song, and there was like a funny little, I don't know if it's an Easter egg, but for the adults, where it's like, I have a cute sign in my living room that says "Live, Splash, Love." I'm Billiam. It's like you can get to the silly side of the parents. It brings out the silly side of the parents too, and it's so fun to like add like. I love puns, adding puns, and I dream of fish puns. But it's so fun to add.
True story.
I do. I wake up in the middle of the night. I'm like, JP, I'll be right back. I gotta go. Sometimes I'll like go hide in the laundry room and just like write things down or sing into the voice recorder. But there's nothing like I think of it as like neurodivergent writing, but it's just you get to write what you actually want to write, whereas everything else has to be in this like serious box. And kids' music, you just do like kids think like that, and they enjoy it. So I really love it the most.
It's something I've taken to my artist side too, playing in a band when we're trying to come up with music. A lot of times it does start out kind of silly and it's gibberish or blabbering or just placeholder lyrics. But being free enough to do that has opened the door to actually get into some of those other areas too. And I find it's something I encourage people to do is like, don't be afraid to be silly. Don't be afraid to make bad music. And I try to remember that with myself because a lot of times things that might not seem like my masterpiece, after I work on it for a little while, starts to come together a little bit when I'm not so judgmental about it.
Oh, it'd be so nice to add that into it. Like Primus and Macklemore and Eminem and who else? There's some artists that really do it well.
Parry Grip.
Parry Grip is a kid's artist, but
but he's
like
amazing.
the king. The king.
Yeah, and you mentioned too, I guess, the concept of just capturing ideas whenever you get them at the moment. So you're jumping out of bed. I think that's such a smart thing to do because I think they disappear so fast.
Yeah, have you? Oh, sorry, Kat.
I was just gonna say sometimes like the whole song is there. Like sometimes we'll read a brief when we get a song, and we will read a brief at night or in the afternoon on a Sunday, and then wake up on a Sunday morning at 2:00 and be like, here's the whole song, like, or like the main idea of the song usually comes in the middle of the night. Yeah. And it's so much fun because it's like, you didn't write, I didn't, like your subconscious writes it and you're like, that's a good idea, subconscious. Thank you.
Well, mine is sometimes I write the most amazing songs in my dreams. And then like I wake up and they're fucking horrible. But in your dreams, like they're the greatest song ever. And you're like, oh my God, I'm going to change the world with this song. And then you have all these accolades and people are singing your song. And then you wake up and like you hum a tune. You're like, what is that? So, but fortunately, Kat's middle of the night stuff is always great.
Well, I think it's important that you're comfortable with letting that stuff in. Even if it turns out to be bad, just let the music in or let it out, however you want to look at it. And
you know what?
Then later judge.
Yeah, writing lyrics too. The way that I personally write lyrics is I'll write, and it goes for ideas in general. Like even if you have really bad ideas, you kind of have to like expel them first. So I'll write all the worst stuff, and knowing it's not going to be possible, knowing that like, if you're writing for a specific character who's an octopus and you really need to change it, it's an octopus specific line and it's definitely not going to work for them. You write it out anyway, and then once you get all the once you get all the stuff that doesn't work out first, you have it. Like for some reason, it just sticks in your brain until you let it, until you're like, okay, I'll give you some attention, write it down. And now after that's done, the other stuff comes to mind for whatever reason. You put your bad rhyme down, it's not like you have it as a placeholder either. You just literally have to like write it on a piece of paper, write it on a Word document. And then once you've given it the attention that it needed, it goes away and leaves room for other things, I think.
Last weekend we had a party at my house, and it's like this thing we do once.
Thanks for the invite, Brian.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad I couldn't because you guys aren't that far away.
Just kidding.
But we have just music outside, so we just set up drums and guitars and stuff. And there's a lot of jamming that happens, and it's very spontaneous, but sometimes you want to try to develop it a little bit and you sing a little bit, and you just sort of have to be okay with whatever fits, whatever works, and just get stuff out. And sometimes the thing that might even felt silly or dumb in the beginning starts to actually make sense and work. And I think that freedom that you give yourself to be okay with that is so important, because then the good stuff can come out without getting kind of gate kept, before it had a chance.
For sure. I think that you really hit the nail on the head. Is you can't be afraid to write shit. You can't, and what that can do is you got to get that bad stuff out of you before the good stuff can come. And self-judgment is we all suffer from it many times. And I commend you for doing that at a party, because I know that like even in our studios, Kat's studio is not far from mine, but when we're each kind of like messing around with stuff, we really don't want the other person hearing it, just because
Yeah.
it's not that they're going to judge it. I think Kat knows the way that I write and I know the way she writes, but it's just the fact that I want to be able to get out all the kinks that I'm feeling, and I feel as though that there's a bit of a show offness when somebody else is hearing it. Like, you don't want, like,
Right.
we're professionals, right? So we have to conduct ourselves as quote unquote professionals. So it's like we play the wrong chord in front of somebody else, and they're like, you know, a 6 is a minor, right? But you mess up and you play a major, and like, oh no, I didn't do that. But when you're by yourself and you don't judge, then fun stuff can happen. So I do think it's important to not be afraid to just mess around and make it sound like crap, because for all you know, the next time that you go sit down and write, one little nugget of that crap session could make the song that you're working on now brilliant.
Want to hear something, JB?
Sure.
That I've never told you? I mean, it's not whatever. But the reason why I don't like for you to hear what I'm doing is because I think you're going to like it. And I'm like, it's not done. It's not done. So I think that, like, my first thing tends to be pretty,
here
depending on where it's coming from.
Here it comes.
What? What do you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to say, like, hey, my first thing tends to be really, really good, but it's not good enough for me. So I don't.
No. It's just like a rough thing, and sometimes it's like a little bit simple or something. Sometimes, like, my memory is kind of. I can't always access it, and sometimes I'll write something that I'm like, oh, this might be close to something I've worked on before, or sometimes like something I've written before, or it's like a little, it's like for lack of a better term, it's like derivative of my own stuff, I guess. And so I'll be like, oh, I want to do something new on this. Like, I want to change. Like, there's a song we were working on yesterday for Baby Shark's big show, and it was like this wacky, like really out there, like chord change that didn't belong, because two characters who don't get along were finding out that they were friends, and it was really out there, and I'm like, this part is good. I don't want him to hear that because it's not actually finished. But the other chords were like so much the same and the same and the same. So I knew the rhythm was good. I knew like the production was good. It was really good. I knew that you were gonna like it, Jay. But I knew there was more to go, and I knew it was gonna be like, keep it. And that's what happened. And I was like, oh, but we did end up keeping it. And usually when he says stuff like that, it is it was the right thing to do. So that's something that, like, we tend to kind of hear when we hear it undone. The other person will either JP will pare it down for me, or I will do something on his tracks.
Right. Nice. It's interesting, you guys, your situation, right? Because you are partners in the music and you're married too. Mm-hmm. And those are often comparisons that are made when you're in a band. It's like being married to a couple people, or all these relationships. And so much happens, within a relationship, but then within a musical relationship. And sometimes they affect the other relationship,
Absolutely.
But it seems like you guys have figured out some ways to make that work. And one of the maybe interesting things that's going on right now, for people that are watching, they might be able to tell, but you guys are in the same building, right? Same house, but different spaces. You have your own separate space.
100%. We learned this a long time ago. We do our best work together, but when we're actually like in a co-writing session, we both tend to be a little bit headstrong on our ideas, and sometimes that affects the music in a negative way. So we found that part of our process that really works is that if we get a brief or we get hired to do something is that we'll come together for a very short while and say, okay, what are we thinking here? Okay, I'm thinking X, Y, and Z, and I'm thinking, okay, that's cool. And we do the collaboration there before we even get to an instrument, anything. And then it's like, okay, once we kind of settle on, let's say, okay, we're going to do an up tempo that kind of has like a something that sounds like this, yeah, kind of pantomime or sing something with a drum beat that's like cool. All right, everybody goes back to their corner. So if Kat's in charge of starting, she'll start, then throw it through our server up to me. I'll add stuff. She'll sing some ideas. I'll sing some ideas, and then before we know it, we have a cohesive track and song. But then Kat is the last person to, not the last person to touch it because I do the mixing, but the last creative. So once she's singing it, she could be like, you know what, this idea really wasn't good, and just be like, hey, do you mind if I try this? And sometimes I'm like, yeah, and sometimes I'm like, no, you may not. You may do it exactly the way I did it because I like it. And then we fight, and then we fight some more, then we argue. Then we realize that I'm wrong, and she realizes that she's wrong. We find somewhere. Sometimes it's in the middle, and then sometimes it's like, you know what, Kat, you're absolutely right, and that's it. So that's our process. It's not the most
collaborative. No, it is collaborative.
No. It's not the most cohesive, but I think that it helps us, and it helps save our personal life as well, because in the very beginning, we would argue in the studio before we were married, before we were even dating. And then it'd be like, well, I don't want to see you for a while. I'm mad at you, whatever. So we found that, within our professional life to kind of keep it there. And then, once we go upstairs and we're with our kids, it's like, we'll still talk about it and we'll still sing, but the kind of negotiations are over at that point.
Yeah. And it allows us to show instead of tell. Instead of being like, I want it to sound like XYZ, and then they have their own idea of what it could be, because it could be anything. People trust us now, thank God. It allows us to show, each other instead of having to tell them about it, which we'll never say. If you're like, I want to marry these two styles that are crazy, the other person will be like, that's terrible. But if we have the right idea, it will end up working out. And also, on a side note, we're very serious. I am very serious about when work ends, we try not to talk about work, because if you're spending nearly all your time with someone, because don't forget, we go out with our friends and we, go on dates, and a lot of our time is spent together. We were like, okay, 9:00, I'm going to go. And I'm going to be in my room, you're going to be in your room, and we can, you have to knock before entering the whole thing. It has to be very separate so that the two of us can feel like we're not, like we're coming home from work or going to work, because it's, just a staircase down instead of having to even leave the house, which is a wild thing.
Yeah, and it's hard enough on your own even to divide that kind of labor, especially when you're not clocking in every day, or you have the kind of job where it follows you, where you can take the work home, where you can think about your music all day long, all night long.
Yeah.
To have those lines are really important.
Well, what I find that's pretty awesome about our job is that we have deadlines, and deadlines I think are really, really important. Before we did this, Kat was doing the artist thing, and I was doing the songwriter producer thing, and just writing songs and hoping people would buy them or pick them up and sing them or whatever. But there was no deadline. I could take months on a song if I wanted to. And I feel as though that having deadlines helps us get fully involved in the project and then finishing it and on to the next one. And I find that helps creatively, for me at least, kind of be all in it, and then boom, it's like a conveyor belt. It's off, and the next one comes. So good, bad, or ugly, that project is at least until we either get feedback or whatever is off the plate, and we can kind of start fresh. So it's kind of like, I guess, is it Tiger Woods, or I don't know, somebody saying like you can't, don't worry about the last shot you did, worry about the one you're doing now. And that's how I take the music.
Yeah, especially pitching, because there's so much pitching involved.
Oh yeah.
Even, like we know, like all our peers who are at the top of their game still have to pitch.
Yeah, I hate pitching.
What? Yeah, it's a wild thing.
The worst.
Like after you write it, it's none of your business. Yeah, and you have to just like, psh, that one's done. Mm-hmm. No matter what it does.
Can you take us through the process of a project, a song? You mentioned a pitch, a brief, then the deadline, of course.
Sure.
What does that look like, and what is the general time frame, or maybe it depends on the project?
It really depends on the project, really. Like we also work on jingles, and sometimes that's 24 hours. So something will come in, and it, like the Charmin, for instance, hey, and we're going to do these toilet songs. And a lot of times when it comes to jingles, the lyrics are already written, so we just kind of got to make something out of it. But let me give you like in the television world, is a brief will come in. Well, do you want a pitch, or they're very similar? Do you want a pitch, or let's say, well, like we have the job and we're just working on the brief?
Can you do both?
Sure. They're very, very similar. Whereas, well, I'll do a pitch first. So we'll get an email from a network that, let's say Disney. We were just got one last week. And it'll say, okay, here's the premise of the show. We're looking for a theme song. It's got to be within 30 seconds to a minute long. It has to incorporate the kind of premise. Sometimes they'll say we want the name of the show within the song. Sometimes they will say we don't want the name of the show in the song. Then they will give us references. And this is where, I really dislike pitching, is because the references are so bizarre sometimes and they don't make any sense. And I understand where they're coming from, because I think that, in a perfect world, it would be like, oh my God, we're going to have like, a Dua Lipa beat with a ska, horn section. And then what we're going to do is like, that like really cool filtered guitar that Third Eye Blind used on their second record. We want to have that in there with like lyrics like Lizzo. Now, it sounds awesome, but it's nearly impossible to do. And sometimes people hit it, but
I'm going to interrupt and just say that, like, and sometimes the references, as they are for anyone, are subjective. So like what I, as the showrunner, might like about a specific song might be different than what you might like. And so they'll be like, we really like this song. And sometimes they'll describe why they like it in an effort to really pinpoint it down. But sometimes you have to like, especially if it's a very popular song, sometimes you have to be like, oh, that just means they want high energy. Or like, Shake It Off has been...
I was just about to play a game with you.
Or
I was
like
all right.
Iconopop,
the first
Shake It
song
Off, Happy.
That everybody always asks. I was going to go 1, 2, 3, and we were both going to say Shake It Off. They love Shake It Off. They love that boom. Boom. Right. Love it.
Or like, and other times, the references are so, not obscure per se, but like so indie or so dark, which generally like doesn't work for kids stuff. And then the end product is never as indie or dark. It's just that like sometimes, and this is no disrespect to the showrunner, they don't want it to be dark or indie. They want it to have the show to have substance. And I mean, the song to have substance of some sort. And so maybe, that's how you're interpreting the fact that they have this like, very slow song with very things that are very like off inappropriate for a kid's song sometimes. Like, and we only know this because we do it so much that that's not necessarily what they want. They want a little bit of like a deeper vibe. That's usually
I think interpreting briefs is an art form in itself. Because again, it's not, the showrunners and the network, they're not trying to make our life difficult. They're trying to get the best piece of music that, conveys their idea of the show. And it's our job to kind of say, yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't think that's exactly what you mean, like Kat's saying. And sometimes it is. And a lot of times you got to just take a shot and you got to say, well, I don't know if they're really feeling it. I don't know if what they're asking for works. And again, sometimes we're right and we'll win and be like, okay, we had an instinct on what I think works for the show. And sometimes we're clearly wrong. And that's okay. I mean, that's all part of it. And I think that's where the creativity lies within this kind of work, is that we do have the freedom to choose or not to choose, where otherwise we're just, cranking. We're just cranking product down a conveyor belt, like, just building cars. We're not, so we're able to kind of put our spin and what we do within those briefs. And again, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And that's just part of it.
So yeah, a lot of decoding of what that happens in bands too. That happens
definitely,
especially when you're talking with people that aren't musicians. They'll say very abstract things.
Well, that's one of the most difficult things, is when we're getting feedback from non-musical people, and they will always say, "Listen, I don't know music at all," and so anytime they'd be like, "I'm like, okay, here it comes," and then it's just like, yeah, you're right. You don't know music at all. And that, but, it's always really great when you're working with a network that has a point music person, because they're able to filter all the awesome ideas that's coming from the non-musical people and say, okay, I get it. I get what you want. And I'm going to, speak to the composers the way that I can convey that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's very different working from a new show in a big network than even a big show that's going to network, or that is being developed. We really like working with new shows too.
Right, because you can craft that identity a bit, I guess.
Yeah, there's a little bit more interpreting, but it's worth it.
Right.
Definitely.
So that's a pitch, and that would mean basically you don't have the job yet.
Oh no.
So they're kind of fishing around.
That's the worst part about it. Again, I don't want to be negative, but it's really hard, because you're putting all your effort into it, and again, actors have the same thing when they go and they audition. This is part of the job, and nobody likes it, but you can get a real kind of sense of pride when you're able to crack that code and be like, look, we gave you this and you love it and it works, and it works on, for the whole tone of the music of the series. So we really love that.
And a lot of times, if you've already had something that you really like, that you could maybe reuse from something else, then you also have an opportunity to kind of like, I don't know how it is for you, but generally, like, we do this for a living and we really enjoy what we do as a job. But sometimes we have these other musical ideas that we wouldn't maybe play with on our own, if we have something, or like if we just have the time to do a pitch. Sometimes we'll do something really crazy and really out there just because, like, it's just another way to like flesh out some idea that you have. And a lot of times that does work, because sometimes if you're getting 5 songs or more, you're just going to pick something that jumps out to you.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times that's what works.
Yeah. And now the
assigned songs.
Thank you very much. very, very similar, except the pressure is kind of off because you know you have the job, but you know that there's always going to be notes, there's always going to be feedback, and sometimes it's great. Actually, I found that a lot of times the notes that come back are like spot on. We're like, yes,
Yeah.
I get that. Yes, our chorus takes too long to come in, or this lyric just isn't really fitting. Beautiful. But I do like the fact that we know we're going to get a second shot. And a lot of times in pitching, you don't get a second shot. It's like, yes, no. You know, you've done all the work, put all your heart and soul into this song, and then it's just like, sometimes it works for them. Sometimes it really has nothing to do with your ability. It has nothing to do with that your music isn't good. It just wasn't working for, or it just wasn't what they had in mind, and that's fine. But when you're assigned a song, if you do deliver something that isn't exactly what they have in mind, you get other chances to kind of revise it and kind of, I guess it becomes another collaborative process than with the network. And I think that's always, I love collaborating. So I find that it's kind of fun to collaborate with people that don't necessarily do exactly what you do, especially with script writers. Collaborating with them is so much fun. Like Kat said, showrunners, which most of the time are also script writers. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
How much time do you generally have to work on a song?
Okay, so pitches and assigned songs are roughly about a week. You get about a week to
depending
do it.
on what kind of a song it is.
Sometimes, you
And
know,
how big it is.
we've been known to be the team that gets called on the 9th hour, where they've gone through so many different like rounds, and they're like, okay, JP and Kat, sadly, you have 2 days. Can you do it?
Yeah.
And we're always like, yes. And that kind of like puts a little pep in our step, because we're like, all right, let's get down to business. And but generally for television, it's usually about a week, sometimes 2. That's with songs. Now with underscore, because we also do a lot of that, how that goes is we will get a animatic, which is basically like a storyboard, and it'll be a couple scenes. Sometimes it's a whole episode, and that's nuts. But most likely it's a few scenes. So there'll be a real action scene, a kind of sentimental scene, maybe a comedic scene, and they're not gonna spot you. You're just gonna go for what you think is best for that. Now that's also a very, very tough ask, because usually when we're spotting, when we're working on a show, the director is spotting us. So what that means is music spotting. For those who don't know, we will watch the show or movie together, and they'll say, okay, at time code whatever, I need a hit here. So he's going to open a door and slam it. So within the music, I need to hear that. And then what I want you to do right after that, there's going to be something lurking around the corner in a few seconds. So I want you to start giving me something that's a little bit foreboding, you know, and that's beautiful, because they're telling you what they want. But then where the art comes in is like foreboding can mean a lot of different things. And depending on the project that you're working on, especially if you're doing animation, it can't sound like, you know, the Inception soundtrack. It can't be the most like wildly dark thing. I don't care if there's a monster coming out. The monster's going to look like a silly little nothing. You can't have like real, or sometimes you can, but in my experience, they'll say things like foreboding or, you know, peril, but you gotta kind of, you know, read the room, as they say, like it's for children, you know, a lot of times.
That's interesting about the underscoring is like you're kind of giving children when it comes to doing for children, you're giving them the emotion that's not being said, especially if it's one that's a little bit like higher level than they know. Like a lot of times we will write up. There have been episodes of like Tab Time on YouTube where she gets into serious. Tab Time has Tabitha Brown, and she gets into serious concepts like death and separation, and when and Sesame Street too. And when you write underscore or music for them, you're empathizing with the feelings that they can't put into words yet, just developmentally. And it's nice because even if you can't say it because it's just something that they just don't get it, you're still giving them something musically that they can feel. And that really helps, I think.
Definitely.
Right, guiding them through the feelings.
Yeah, and it's really nice to, as our company grows, Earworm, to be able to wear the different hats. I mean, we love writing songs. Like we started as song people, and I think we'll always be song people first. But as the years progressed, and we started doing more underscoring and sound design, and it's just that's a fun job because you are building the tone of the whole show. And like one of our really good friends and collaborators, P.T. Walkley, who is the main music guy for Gabby's Dollhouse and also Blues Clues and You. His sound is just so amazing, and you can always tell when it's a PTQ or song, and he created that sound for that show. And you know, whenever we're lucky enough to be involved, you know, what we're doing is bringing our sensibilities, but knowing that it's PT's world. So we have to be in that world. So that's a big responsibility on both parties, whether you're, you know, additional composer, which is what we are for Gabby's, or main composer, because it's your world that you're creating. And that's the most fun part when you're working on a show from the ground up, is that you're really helping shape the sound of the show.
Right. Yeah, very delicate thing. You know, there's a video on YouTube I show my sampling class. Mrs. Doubtfire recast as a horror film.
Oh my
Recut
God,
as a horror film as a trailer.
I love it.
It's hysterical because, you know, Mrs. Doubtfire, fun-loving family film. You change the music a little bit, and it gets stalker, creepy vibes, you know, and it
100%. 100%.
That's like
and I
the
love
perfect
that.
example.
I love that because, you know, now that we're in a new time, I don't know if Mrs. Doubtfire would play well in this. Like, it is a bit creepy, you know, like a dad dressing up like an old woman just to see his kids because his wife doesn't want him. Like, it could be a horror movie.
Yeah, it's
actually,
delicate.
I think it would be a fucking amazing horror movie.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to change that. So it's a great example of how important the vibe and tone is.
Definitely.
I can only imagine, especially working with films and TV shows for kids, that's so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say, you know, I guess kids and family kind of space that we find ourselves in most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, it kind of has a really wide spectrum of stuff, and I love it. I really do love it, because we can be as silly sometimes and as serious, just like Kat was saying with Tab Time. We did just do an episode on death where, you know, there's a song that that we didn't write, but we had to produce and then do the underscore, and it's a real heartfelt song about missing somebody, and it's important. So it's like, just because it lands in the kids and family space doesn't mean that there isn't a depth there as well. So I think it's a great space to be in.
Yeah, I think the depth comes from honoring what you're talking about, and that goes with like not only the concepts, but like if we're doing like a celebrity song, also honoring their own styles. Like I think people would. I think when you have a celebrity on a show and you're writing something that's not really their style of song, it just doesn't come off even to the kids as authentic, because they're like, I listen to, Cardi B, or I listen to the Jonas Brothers, and that's not their style. So like when we did a song for Cardi B on Baby Shark's big show called Seaweed Sway, like it was a big task to write for her, first of all, on the show at all, like her being who she is, and like her being like unabashed, like I'm gonna say what I want, I'm gonna do what I want, and having like her history of like WAP and all that's like that stuff, to put her in this space could be just like a big like flop, because if you wrote something that was like childish for her, or like in the wrong genre, but like, so we had to make sure, and same thing with Billy Porter, we had to make sure that like the production that we did, that was not by her producers or Billy Porter's producer, the production that we did for her or him was their style of production, and like even embodying and trying to empathize with their own writing style, or their own lyric style, or their own melodies is a big deal. Like you have to be authentic for kids in every single way. Like even there was we did like a Hanukkah song once, and a lot of the song, like my stepfather's Jewish, and we've celebrated Hanukkah a number of times, especially when our kids were born. But like a lot of times the Hanukkah songs are like, we are celebrating Hanukkah and we're gonna put a menorah, and like everything is so like you're talking at kids instead of coming from like a place of empathy. And so we wrote this really fun song. What was the name of the song?
A Festival of Lights.
Okay, the title notwithstanding, the song had to be like,
I don't think we wrote I actually think that when we were assigned that song, they wanted it to be called that. I don't think we came up with that.
Oh yeah, we did not. We did not
title. No.
But the song was from like we've all been celebrating this, and you can learn from us, but we're going to tell you what it's, we're not going to tell you as a person who doesn't know anything about it, because if you celebrate Hanukkah, like, all that stuff. And you learn, a lot of times I think that at least our kids like learn more, not by talking at them, but talking about it in conversation, like, oh, this is what we're doing. And they pick up better when they feel like you're talking about something in a connected way versus like talking at them. Yeah,
and actually, just to jump in, do you remember how when we first started Friends with a Penguin? This is a cool story. So we did our normal like, hey, Billy Porter, cool. And with Sesame Street, we don't write the lyrics; we just write the music. So we got these lyrics, and again, on face value, it's like, what the hell is this? But then you start to read into them, and then you read the scripts, and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. And I remember I was like, I got this, Kat. So I went into the studio and I started writing something, and it was good, but it was not Billy Porter's, like, it was not his sound at all. And I was like, yeah, but he could sing this and he would sound good doing it. Kat's like, yeah, that's true, but like Billy Porter is like larger than life. So then she was like, all right, now I got this. So then I was like, okay, you're the boss. She took it and started adding like the strings and the real fun things, and then that kind of inspired me, and we kind of went. It was a real cool collaborative effort. But if Kat didn't stop me from, I think it started to sound like an Andy Grammer song, which is fine. Like, and definitely Billy Porter's such a wonderful singer. He could do it, but is that Billy Porter? Absolutely not.
So writing Friends, I've been a super fan of Billy Porter for like, I don't know, since probably Love Is on the Way, which is like an amazing, amazing song. And So like it's always we always do deep dives before we write celebrity songs because maybe you don't know, like you have to really know at least 10 of their songs deeply to really know what makes them tick, and like you feel like you get to know the person by their work, and that's when I feel like you can write a good song for a celebrity,
for sure,
or know a concept well.
Yeah, that's a whole other level of skill, right? So
yeah,
it's combining that writing for the children, giving them an interesting and relatable perspective, but then it also has to fit an artist, and that can be, I mean, I think especially like a Cardi B situation, like you mentioned, that's tough. So
it's tough.
I think it's awesome that you guys do that. It must be such a fun, creative challenge as well.
So much fun.
Definitely.
It's definitely better than other jobs we could have had.
Right.
Yeah, I always joke that like when in I might have I would have to learn how to make a really cool cup of coffee at Starbucks. If anything happened with this, because we just love it so much, and we've just devoted so much of our time and energy into it, and don't want to do anything else. Yeah,
it's fantastic. You guys have had so much success with it. Great, follow your dreams story, and
definitely.
It's
And
really,
again, we're always learning, and we're always trying to get better. By no means do I think that we are finished products. I think that we are work in progresses, and like right now, it's a slow time for us with the writer strike and the SAG strike and networks kind of cutting back. So what we're doing is we're utilizing this time to kind of hone in our craft and always stay relevant. And just it's a great time to kind of check where you're at, and kind of project where you want to be. And that's kind of part of the reason that like my Emmy I gave to my parents, because I don't want to look at that every day and just be like, see, look what I accomplished, because it was a great accomplishment, and I'm very proud of that. But I'm also looking to the future on the other wonderful projects that we will be involved with.
You guys have such a cool partnership, both musically and as far as life goes. Earwormny.com is the website. Is there anywhere else you'd like to send people to check out your work?
I believe my Instagram is also Earwormny. Is that correct, Kat?
Yep. Earworm
cool.
NY.
Earwormny.
Nice.
I did have a TikTok for a minute. And I was doing not music. I thought that I was going to be the new Dave Portnoy of cereal, because I love cereal. So I called myself the Cereal Slayer. I think I stopped. I did a few things. So I would buy these like junk cereals, and I would be like, "Wow, cereal!" And I would taste them, and I would review them. But I haven't done that in a long time.
But you're very serious about cereal.
I'm very serious about cereal. I love cereal. But I remember Kat, this is part of our personal life. She was like, maybe you should, lay off on doing those reviews, And I'm
okay,
like,
wait, no. My thing about it was not that part. It was the fact that we were opening a full box of cereal every day, and it was always like junk cereal, but also like that we were wasting like the milk in the cereal, because you can't eat that much cereal.
Oh yeah, that was the whole stick. It was like, how fun.
Do you know how big his bowl was?
It wouldn't be fun to just pour regular. So I took a salad bowl, poured the entire box in, took all the milk, because it was the visual, Right. But turns out that having a successful YouTube channel or TikTok account or any sort of food review, it's very difficult. It's not as easy as it looks, as obviously with your show.
Well, maybe it's like a song title you can bank for later. Serious about cereal.
Serious about cereal. I love that.
Right, come up.
That's actually really good. That would be like a really fun, like just kid song. Because like we write a lot of songs around the house with our kids all the time. I don't even want to call it writing, because it's just stream of consciousness, and it's just so much fun. And sometimes, actually, we were going upstate this weekend, just Kat and I, and we were talking about that. I would really love to be part of a project where we could just come up with stream of consciousness songs and not have to worry about like production value or anything. It could just be like just silly stuff that just, kind of makes you giggle. Like, I don't know who wrote, there was a show on Nickelodeon many years ago called Sanjay and Craig. I've never really watched the show, but I remember hearing the theme song. And it was just like, Sanjay and Craig, they're in the Best Friends Hall of Fame. Sanjay and Craig, there is no Best Friends Hall of Fame. They lied. We made it up or something. And it was just the most absurd thing. And again, the song itself is very catchy. I'm still singing it, but I don't remember it having to like, it wasn't like super slick production. It was just funny. So like,
right
out there, anybody wants really silly songs that just have stream of consciousness things, we are your people.
I love it.
Sounds like a TikTok channel, Jade.
No,
Same.
Can't do it.
Too much cereal in a bowl.
Too much cereal in a bowl.
You gotta make your choices. But hey, I know we're running late here, so we'll wrap it up. It was really awesome talking to you guys. JP Rende and Kat Raio Rende. Check out earwormny.com. So much fun music on there. And congratulations on the Emmy.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the best of the luck, and hopefully we'll get to chat again soon.
Definitely.
Yes.
And next time, if you're ever playing live, we would love to come and see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Definitely.
Yeah, we're not too far apart, so that'd be cool.
Where are you?
Long Island.
Oh, that's not far at all.
Not
Cool.
bad.
Not at all. Cool.
Awesome.
Well, thank you guys, and thank
Thanks,
you
man.
everyone for listening.
Be good.
Thank you.